Yeah, the guy coming out of her butt.
Imagine walking down the streets where you grew up only to discover that the dreams, hopes, and friendships that once filled these neighborhoods have been replaced by stories of struggle, loss, and faded potential. The Offspring's "The Kids Aren't Alright" isn't just an anthem of punk nostalgia, it's a stark reflection of how the passage from youth to adulthood can unravel. It was about the death of the American dream, and ironically what people associate with one of the safest places, the suburbs. This is how the Offspring exposed the rot that was eating away at the heart of a generation. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. The late 1990s in America were supposed to be the good old days. The Cold War was over, the dot-com bubble was making the economy boom, you could arrive 30 minutes prior to your flight's departure at the airport, and this feeling of victory seemed to be everywhere. It was an era of wealth we'd never seen before, a time when the American dream felt like it was finally within everyone's grasp. The suburbs were that promise, made real. You know the picture: manicured lawns, two-car garages, white picket fences. They were supposed to be safe, orderly, and packed with opportunity. Pop culture sold us this image hard. On the surface, America looked like a rerun of Happy Days. But underneath all that gloss, something was starting to sour. Suburbia was becoming a gilded cage, and for the kids growing up inside it, the shine was wearing off. That promise of a stable, predictable life started to feel more like a prison sentence. This quiet, anxious desperation was starting to bubble to the surface. Just a year after The Kids Aren't Alright came out, the movie American Beauty won Best Picture for tackling this exact same idea. American Beauty skillfully exposed the rot beneath the polished surface of the American dream, depicting suburban life as rife with hypocrisy, dissatisfaction, and concealed dysfunction. The Burnham family's lives, which seem idyllic and successful from the outside, are saturated with emptiness, materialism, and a desperate yearning for real connection and fulfillment. Through pointed satire and complex characters, the film reveals that the relentless pursuit of status and appearance often leads to alienation and despair rather than happiness. This critique is made more ironic and unsettling in retrospect due to Kevin Spacey's prominent role as Lester Burnham, himself a man concealing destructive desires and moral failings, given the disturbing allegations and controversies that later surfaced about Spacey's personal life. But before Hollywood caught on, a punk rock band from the heart of suburbia itself had already written its anthem. The Offspring saw these picture-perfect neighborhoods were starting to crack, and they gave a voice to the truth that a lot of people were feeling but nobody was saying. As frontman Dexter Holland put it, it may look like an episode of Happy Days out there in America, but it feels more like Twin Peaks. To really get how the Offspring nailed this critique, you have to know where they came from. The band didn't form in a gritty punk hub like New York or London. They got their start in Garden Grove in California back in 1984. The Offspring weren't outsiders judging suburbia. They were products of it. They lived it, and they saw the cracks forming firsthand. Their early days was pure DIY Southern California punk scene. They started out as a band called Manic Subsidal, putting out their own records and carving out a sound that was raw and full of energy. Their first albums, The Offspring in 1989 and Ignition in 1992, made them a respected name in the underground. Then in 1994, everything just exploded. Their album Smash became a global phenomenon, becoming the single best-selling album ever released on an independent label. With massive hits like Come Out and Play and Self-Esteem, The Offspring, right alongside Green Day and Rancid, basically threw punk rock back into the mainstream while the popularity of grunge was fading. They were suddenly one of the biggest bands in the world, but following up that kind of success created immense pressure. Instead of making Smash Part 2, the band took a different approach. Their 1997 album Ixnay on the Hombre was a more mature and somewhat darker album. The title itself, a mix of Pig Latin and Spanish, roughly translates to Screw the Man or Screw Authority, signaling a defiant tone. While it still had fast-paced punk anthems, it also featured more introspective and serious rock tracks, like the powerful hit Gone Away. Ixnay was a deliberate departure, showing that the band was interested in more than just party anthems. They were exploring darker, more personal themes. The press focused largely on the album's commercial performance, which only sold a tiny fraction of what smashed it, but it still ended up going platinum. But the band was about to make a comeback in a major way. The Offspring returned in 1998 with their follow-up record Americana. With Americana, they pivoted again. While Ixnay was more inwardly focused, Americana was a huge satirical takedown of American culture itself, hitting everything from mindless consumerism to trashy talk shows. It was another massive hit, but hidden amongst the funnier, radio-friendly singles was a song that was, well, different. It was darker, more personal, and brutally honest, feeling like a spiritual successor to the emotional core of Ixnay. With Dexter telling Guitar World, the idea wasn't to reinvent the wheel. We expanded our horizons on our last record, and that's okay. But I don't feel like you have to be a completely different band on every record. As the group started to write, a theme began to form. This trip from garage in the suburbs to the arenas all over the world gave the members a pretty unique perspective. By the time they released their fifth album, Americana, they had seen a lot. Dexter recalled, a lot of things that I started writing, I realized were kind of this theme of American culture in 1998. That is what Americana is, American culture. I was thinking about how today's America is distorted really. It's not Norman Rockwell anymore, it's Jerry Springer. It's not Live on the Farm, it's Going to Burger King. Though they share nearly identical titles, The Who's 1965 track The Kids Are Alright and The Offspring's The Kids Aren't Alright both ultimately present sharply contrasting worldviews and generational commentaries. The Who's classic track serves as a youthful anthem of reassurance and optimism. With jangly guitars and Pete Townshend's heartfelt lyrics, it radiates a sense of hope, camaraderie, and the enduring confidence of youth. The repeated phrase, the kids are all right, is less a denial of difficulty and more of an assurance that despite challenges, young people can persevere and remain true to themselves. The kids are all right. Then in stark contrast, The Offspring's The Kids Aren't Alright delivers a much darker, more cynical take on contemporary youth and suburban life. The song isn't just a song, it feels more like a collection of short, tragic obituaries. It's like a news report from the front lines of a dream that's falling apart, highlighting things like unplanned pregnancy, unemployment, drug addiction, and taking one's life. All this is happening in a place that had long been held up as a safe space.
Yeah, it's wild. He did a great job of kind of capturing, I guess, what you would call the dark underbelly of American youth, right? I mean, that's kind of what the song was about, was me driving through my old neighborhood and remembering all the people that I had grown up with as I passed their houses, and then how their lives, some of them didn't turn out so great, and they were in jail or dead or whatever, and how it looks like such a nice normal neighborhood, but there's actually a lot going on underneath. That inspired the song, and the video really captured it.
The song kicks off with a dose of nostalgia, painting a picture of a neighborhood that was once full of hope. When we were young, the future was so bright. The old neighborhood was so alive. That's the suburban promise right there. The starting line where everyone supposedly gets a fair shot, but the song immediately rips that idea to shreds. Now the neighborhood's cracked and torn. The kids are grown up, but their lives are worn. The chorus delivers the brutal truth. From there, the verses are a devastating roll call of people who didn't make it. Dexter tells these little stories of immense tragedy. Then it gets darker. Jay took his own life while Brandon OD'd and died. The song wraps up with the bewildered, haunting question. What the hell is going on? Cruel extreme reality. What makes these lyrics hit so hard is that they're largely based on fact. These aren't made-up characters. In interviews, Dexter confirmed that the song came directly from a visit back to his old neighborhood in Garden Grove. Dexter, however, told the LA Times that he did change names and some circumstances to keep the song from being too much of a documentary. Despite these subtle changes, guitarist Noodles said that he knew exactly who Dexter was writing about. The song is a eulogy for a lost generation, his generation, swallowed up by the very place that was supposed to protect them. The real genius of The Kids Aren't Alright is the huge contradiction in the music itself. On the surface, it's a classic Offspring song. The drums are fast and punchy, the pace is upbeat, and the power chords are just begging for a mosh pit. It has all the parts of a feel-good punk anthem. You can just jump around to it, you can scream the lyrics, but if you listen closer, that iconic opening guitar riff isn't angry, it's sad. It has the wistful, almost mournful feeling that just hangs over the whole song. This isn't the sound of rebellion, it's the sound of defeat. Dexter's voice is another key part. He's not screaming in protest, he's singing with a sober clarity. delivering the grim report like a eulogy, not an attack. The clash between the music and the deep sadness is what gives the song its power. It perfectly mirrors the main theme, the happy, sunny face of suburbia that's hiding all the rot underneath it. The music sounds like what life there is supposed to feel like, energetic, bright, and alive. But the melody and the lyrics tell the truth of what it's actually become, a place of broken dreams and quiet sorrow. It's the sonic equivalent of forcing a smile at a funeral. The song doesn't tell you about the decay in suburbia, it makes you feel it. The Kids Aren't Alright wasn't just another hit single, it was a diagnosis of our culture. It put a finger on the widespread feeling of disillusionment that reached far beyond the punk scene. While other tracks on Americana were funny jabs of pop culture, this song cut way deeper, touching a raw nerve of anxiety about lost potential and crumbling communities. Decades later, the song feels less like a snapshot of the 90s and more like a prophecy. The problems it talked about, alienation, mental health struggles, economic anxiety, the hollowing of the American dream, have only gotten louder and more urgent. The fragile lives and shattered dreams that Dexter sang about have become the main story for millions. The song has become a timeless anthem for anyone who's ever felt left behind by a world that promised them everything, but delivered something much, much harsher. Its legacy is cemented not just by the fact that it's still all over rock radio today, but by its cultural weight. The song has been used in movies and TV shows, and critics have called it one of the Offspring's most important and greatest works. It proves that punk rock can do more than just rage against the machine. It can also hold up a mirror to society and tell stories of people that the machine has broken. It gave a voice to the voiceless and showed that a 3-minute song could carry the weight of a generation's grief. But people shouldn't mistake the entire album as a critique, but rather an observation. Dexter admitted to the LA Times, "I didn't want it to be a record that made you feel hopeless. At the end of the day, I hope that you can get something positive out of it." So there are songs like Staring at the Sun and even Pay the Man, which says, how am I going to find my own way as an individual through the world? If you think for yourself, you can still manage it. The bottom line of what I'm trying to say is you have to create your own life and your own priorities. When Columbia Records released Americana on November 17th, 1998, The Offspring already had one successful single under their belt thanks to showing off their more playful side with Pretty Fly for a White Guy. The track resonated with listeners thanks to several familiar elements, including its famous sample from Def Leppard's Rock of Ages, a Latin-influenced musical style inspired by their Southern California background, and lyrics that poked fun at white suburban teens adopting hip-hop trends. The song was a top 5 hit on both the mainstream and alternative charts. It even was a crossover hit, peaking at number 53 on the Hot 100 chart. The second single, Why Don't You Get a Job, a critique of entitlement and just laziness, was another top 10 hit on both the mainstream and alternative rock charts. Released in the summer of 1999, the third single, The Kids Aren't Alright, peaked at number 6 and 11 on the alternative and mainstream rock tracks chart. It became one of the band's most enduring songs, and the USC marching band made it a staple of their sporting events. The band issued a fourth single, She's Got Issues, that was a top 20 hit on both mainstream and alternative rock radio. While it was a challenge to match the phenomenal success of Smash, The Offspring still made a significant impact with their album Americana. The record debuted at number 6 and eventually peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200, making it the highest charting position of the band's career. Americana was certified 5 times platinum in the States, and it surpassed 10 million copies sold worldwide. Notably, the album also spent an impressive 22 non-consecutive weeks in the top 10 of the Billboard 200, further cementing its place as a major milestone in the band's career. So why does The Kids Aren't Alright stick with us? Because it tells a painful, uncomfortable truth. It rips the idyllic wallpaper right off the walls of the suburbs to show the rot underneath. By using the very real stories of his childhood friends, Dexter Holland created something universal about how fragile hope can be and the high price of a broken promise. It's still a powerful warning, a reminder that behind the perfect lawns and sunny skies, a dark reality can be growing, and sometimes the kids are the first to see those things that are going very, very wrong. As for the music video, here's what the members of The Offspring had to say about it.
The director was from Israel, I think, and he kind of approached us, and he had kind of a style and a look, and it was basically this. He hadn't shot it yet, but it was that kind of vibe and special effect.
But when he explained it to us, we didn't really, I mean, we had no visual cues to, you know, what it was going to look like. Again, it was all shot on green screen, and then he just kind of manipulated it. So we had to really just kind of put our faith in him as to how this was going to look, you know, and it is a great video. All the, you know, the way he melds people together and you know, goes from scene to scene is pretty cool.
What other songs from this era do you think perfectly capture that feeling of suburban decay? Let me know in the comments section below. That brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you have suggestions for future topics, let me know in the comments section below, and we'll see you again in Rock Culture Story Sticker.